With the Newspeak group, we've been working on Newspeak, which is a game set in a near-future dystopia, and it's also about espionage and code breaking. So some of the projects that we've worked on is doing research on dystopias in general in culture and how they're represented, as well as like real-life dystopias and how we can incorporate that in the game. We've also done some play testing of the game prototype. We've put together an art design document for it, and also some ideas for the language and codes that are going to be used in the game. So I'm just going to talk a bit about research of culture that we did, of how dystopias are represented across media. So we found that dystopia is a really wide genre with a lot of different potential settings. Some of them are set sort of in the past, not really incorporating technology, but sort of applying a spin onto dystopia, from the 50s, 60s or earlier. Some are set way into the future, like Warhammer 40k or something. And then there's also the sort of cyberpunk kind of theme, which is what Newspeak will be a bit like, but Newspeak wants to be a bit more subtle and not be a complete reimagining of our current world. We looked at different genres, so we've looked at common dystopian tropes and settings, we've looked at dystopia across literature and the sort of original examinings of dystopia, which sort of came from analysis of utopia and people trying to create utopias and realizing that actually from our perspective they're more of a dystopian state because of their need to have absolute control over everyone's lives. We've looked at some sort of dystopian architecture in music videos and film and TV series like Black Mirror, and also children's cartoons, comics, board games, and video games. So yeah, there's a lot of media there. So this will help because we can decide what kind of dystopia Newspeak is and where it fits in this genre, avoid doing things that have been overdone. We can take a lot of inspiration, visual inspiration, mechanics, features of dystopia and how to incorporate the social commentary and make it serious. And also we can have references to these other dystopian works and use that in marketing to just try to focus down what exactly Newspeak is.
A lot of people also research current real-life dystopias or ones throughout history. So a few people looked at Spanish Inquisition, Nazi regime, modern China, the Romans, kind of how authoritarian governments put themselves together and how they managed to control people, which is quite useful in developing the lore of the game, because in this game it's not as authoritarian as maybe Nazi Germany, but it's quite interesting to look at how the kind of power could possibly come into being in quite a subtle way. We also looked at the language of authoritarian rulers, kind of the features of speech, of how they talk to people, how they manage to control people. We looked at social media, current social media, how it has very many positive aspects, but also really negative aspects. And considering Newspeak's meant to be kind of a just around the corner dystopia, then interesting to look at how, social media will probably play into that massively. Hashtags are kind of like Newspeak in some ways and that kind of thing. Also, we looked at technology and possible dystopian technologies. It's useful to incorporate things that we see in our modern world because that kind of makes the game story almost more uncanny and more disturbing in a way. And I think that's useful for the art and design aspect of the game.
So we were the art direction team. So because it's a near future dystopia, we went with a kind of, our aesthetic is corporate oppression and surveillance, and sort of very clean, sort of clinical. And I think we sort of collected some examples of very prominent sort of evil corporate companies. So things like Abstergo, think Apple, think Aperture, those kind of things. And basically decided that we also needed to kind of have this theme of resistance. So you've got to have corporate oppression and surveillance on one half, but also a feeling of civil disobedience and resistance. So we think the aesthetic of this near future dystopia could be very clean, very corporate, sort of white plastic, sort of lots of polygons, that kind of thing. So notes on colour, we've kind of collected some palettes from dystopian film and video games, and sort of what colours did they use to represent, because colours obviously being very important in what is primarily a visual game. So kind of initially superficially appealing, but also kind of got these pastel suburbia aspect, while also being kind of slightly below the surface, this feeling of surveillance and false happiness. So the people who are like the subversives or the resistance, or the people who are sort of fighting back against this corporate dystopia, get code cards. So there's like 17 different kinds of codes, and we were thinking of the way to make it seem completely opposite to the people who are conforming is to have it sort of look very like they've been sent in like a text message, or like one where it looks like it's come from like a screenshot of an email, or like it's come as like a Facebook status or something. Very much like pulled together from lots of different media while you're trying to avoid sort of being watched. Whereas the guards who have all of the code information would have sort of a very clean, white, corporate, everything fits together nicely. So to kind of really emphasise this difference between like the people who are on the side of the government and working with their corporations who get the kind of inside information versus the kind of people who are trying to go against the surveillance. So it also needs to be like a direction card, which we thought would be quite good to take the initiative from kind of the compasses on people's phones, because people are unlikely to be carrying like physical compasses, but to make it look very much like you've got your iPhone out and you're like, oh, I'm looking to go north. And then the location cards, we kind of looked at lots of architectural forms, and I think we took quite a good cue from like some mix between like sort of suburbia and Mirror's Edge, but it's the locations we've sort of brainstormed lots of ideas, and there's supposed to be roughly 100, so we think it's sort of like 10 classes of location, and then sort of, you know, like green spaces could be like parks or and have sculptures, but from when we were playtesting it, we thought that it's useful to have sort of 4 to 5 important points in each location card that you can describe, so that you don't pull 9 cards with trees and grey buildings on them, so a dog, a sculpture, a fountain, etc. And also that the lore of the environment has to be conveyed through the location cards, so they've got to have that kind of slightly dystopian edge, so maybe like titles of the places, or somebody suggested like an immigration centre or like a genetic engineering facility, that kind of thing.
And then we've all collectively been playtesting the version of the game that exists already over the last few days, and we've also recorded as many comments, suggestions and additional sort of notes on what we thought when we were playing. I think some of the big feedback was that it was very fun and exciting to play as the sort of subversive side, but actually that from, at least in the games we've played, it's much easier to win as a guard. So things like that, we also found that playing on the guard side sometimes wasn't quite as exciting, because there was a lot of leafing through paper, and I'm sure obviously that would look very different if you had a proper book, but so yeah, we found some things like, obviously being first-time players, we didn't know initially what words were available. So an index perhaps at the front of the code book to say, you know, you have this list of words will appear in different connections, so you know, okay, train is a possible word if someone's talking about a train, not to like read through like, oh, where is this? Is this a word that's a code, or is this a word they're just using? Things like that. We also came up with a few suggestions, so the idea of missions perhaps, to try and immerse players in the game more and to involve you more in the lore, so perhaps drawing random mission cards which state which direction you have to go in, and that one of the subversives is allowed to see this, and then they have to then go to that exact location card. The others won't know, and various other suggestions. They've all been recorded in the I don't know how much detail we should go.
Just in terms of like maybe language, we were kind of like language and playtesting came together a lot, and I think what we found from that is the kind of less prescriptive the kind of codes are, and like the more kind of room there is for people to kind of use the codes in their own way, the kind of more fun the subversives have. So if there's the kind of opportunity to, you know, put in your own personal references, like use cultural references, make references that you and your friends might understand together, that's actually like a lot better than kind of looking at it in like a really like coded, like mathematical way. I think that's just like something we all enjoyed more. And like in terms of like, I know there was the kind of idea of like sentence structures thrown around, but I think we just found that the game, like it was quite hard to get a grasp on at first, and I think the subversives, like you take a lot of time thinking really carefully about what you're going to say, and like to kind of add in that kind of additional element of like how you might speak would possibly overcomplicate things and would just make it too difficult for the subversives to do.
Oh, and we'd also throw in some suggestions for alternate names for things. So I think one thing that most people quite liked was the idea of calling the guards or conformist moderators or mods, like on internet boards, and then to maybe anon is a bit on the nose, but something along those lines for the subversive side. So really reference social media and internet usage and internet warriors.
So we're basically talking about like Reddit 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Excellent. Anyone else? Is that everything?
Shall I talk about locations?
Yeah. Sure.
So we did some stuff on location cards. We thought like those are really good building blocks for this sort of storyline and world building. So we wanted to answer questions like what is the city's history, what do its citizens do for work or leisure, how does government power and control suddenly manifest itself, and what are different socioeconomic groups in the city. And in terms of like general visions, we thought we could have like a hyper-consumerist society whose dystopian government draws its power from the sort of general distraction and self-indulgence of the citizenry, but also with surveillance featuring heavily. Or you can have elements of like a state that draws on nationalism or fear of terrorists or traitors to sort of gain its power. And we also thought poverty and inequality could be a feature. So you have sort of technology has created a utopia for the wealthy few at the expense of the many, and then that features in the locations by having areas that are in the wealthier districts or poorer districts. So I kind of just have a few like as examples of ideas here. Oh, we also thought advertisements could feature heavily because that helps to make the locations less samey. So you have like you can have more unusual things featured in like posters and billboards, and then that like is something you can latch onto to describe with your code. And that kind of, so you come up with like, and also you can talk a lot about what the nature of the society is through the like nature of advertisements and news headlines. So in terms of places, we thought they could be like a tropical park filled with tropical fauna and like contained entirely within a greenhouse, and then the sort of wealthy citizens walking around in like exaggerated versions of today's designer clothes, like photographing the plants and themselves using their phones. And then statues and monuments could also be a part of it. So I thought maybe we could have like a giant torso of the leader, and then his hands are kind of cupped like this, and children and tourists can kind of climb into the hands and get their picture taken, which is also kind of symbolic, like the lions on Nelson's column. Yeah, and then there could be a gate into an elite district, and made to look very beautiful, with like impressive classical architecture and flowers and stuff. But then you can also just sort of subtly, not so subtly see spikes on the top maybe, or cameras. So that was kind of what we wanted to be a permanent feature, is to have locations that were ostensibly very impressive or beautiful, but had some kind of lurking threat or sinister element to them. You could also have Build a Baby, which would be like a genetic engineering firm, where you can like design and grow your baby on a terminal, and then you've got like these green tanks where there's partially developed kind of babies lurking ominously in the background. State food dispensary in a poorer district, you can have like an enormous metal building, and then where the food is being dispensed, you have kind of small slots in bulletproof glass, like in a post office or bank. A robot zoo, which is just normal zoo, but you look closer and it's robots. Or a genetic engineering zoo where you have like a bunch of animal hybrids. Presidential tower, big, gold, luxurious, some palm trees. Also a criminal den where you can get a fake identity, which is very necessary in a state in which everyone has an ID and gets things through their ID, and also the government can delete undesirables from the system. And it also shows the other side of dystopia, which could be like organized cybercrime as well as state oppression. You could have all these like plastic masks hanging from chains and hooks from the ceilings, and like tons of just like jumbled computer gear and wires. And like passports and ID cards and that sort of thing. And maybe like a sinister guy with some sort of robot modification. Or you could have a secret police headquarters, and the outside would be like a big hexagon or something, and maybe like a big poster of the sinister looking chief of police with like, we are keeping you safe. But then inside you'd have to have people on like research computers if you have like an interior shot. And then all the computers would have like profiles and undesirables with all this information they've managed to harvest on them. Or a claw grab machine, but instead of children's toys and sweets, there's medicine. And also like a fabric shop where you've got like, we thought maybe there could be like sort of secret underground locations where people can meet as well, where there are like pockets of resistance, which would be interesting. So one of them could be hidden in a fabric shop where like, it's like a tiny little room and there's like fabrics stacked on either side and just like a tiny little walkway through the middle and then like an old lady sort of hunched over, maybe with like a robot eye or something. Yeah, and that's just like some examples. We have like a big long list.
I think also just finally we did a lot of work on the playtesting to sort of rationalise the game mechanics within the sort of environment of the game. So like, why is it that you win if you catch like a majority of people but not one individual? So, you know, why are you going to the north? Why is it that the guards only catch you when they get there if it's like a surveillance society? So we can do things like, you know, in your mission it'll be like, oh, we've disabled the surveillance in the northern district, so therefore the guards can only find you if they meet you there. Whereas if two individuals go somewhere else, the surveillance isn't disabled. So the guards know that they're there, so they can therefore be caught. Stuff like that. So we did a lot of work trying to like rationalise the mechanics of, you know, why is it that these things cause you to win? Why is it that these things cause you to lose, etc. So I think we came up with a lot of ideas of kind of integrating the environment and the missions at the same time.